Thank you, everybody, for joining us today and for being patient as we waited for the clock to strike 3:30. We're going to go ahead and we're going to get started this afternoon. We appreciate your time and your interest in joining us today. I want to give some announcements as we let those who are wrapping up their prior meeting and join us log in. We want to share that the California Department of Education, CDE, is offering professional development certificates to all attendees of this live webinar. Live is the key word, so your professional development certificate will be sent from upk@cde.ca.gov to the email address provided during registration. The certificate will come with the name you registered and logged into Zoom under. So if you don't receive your professional development certificate within the next week or two, it takes us a little bit, so by April 28th, please reach out to us at upk@cde.ca.gov. A link to the email, a link to the mailbox will be shared in the chat. We also just want to note that the certificates are only issued to those who attend the live webinar. We know we have some taped webinars on the California Educators Together, but we only issue certificates if you are attending this live. We're now going to go ahead and get started with the webinar. So welcome. Next slide, please. We want to welcome everyone to CDE's Strengthening P-3 Alignment Proactive Supports to Improve Social Emotional Development and Reduce Exclusionary Discipline webinar. We're so excited to have you here with us today. My name is Shanna Burkholz-Vasquez, and I work in the Early Education Division. I am one of the presenters for today's webinar. We have a few quick logistics to run through before we get started. We will be taking Q&A, question and answer, in the Q&A feature. So please feel free to communicate with us there and ask questions if needed. We will do our best to address them. The slide deck and webinar recordings will be made available. An announcement will be shared through the P-3 listserv. If you're not currently subscribed, details on how to join will be posted in the chat in a bit. I'm going to now pass it over to Steve Profiter to provide a welcome.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Shanna. And good afternoon, everyone. And thank you for joining us today for the Strengthening P-3 Alignment Proactive Supports to Improve Social Emotional Development and Reduce Exclusionary Discipline webinar. This is our 28th edition of the Opportunities for All branch, or OFAB, pre-kindergarten through third grade, or P-3 webinar series. I'll start with some introductions. So for myself, my name is Stephen Profiter. I am the director of the Early Education Division at the California Department of Education. Your time is the most precious resource we all have, and so we are thrilled that you have chosen to spend some time with us today. With me from the California Department of Education, we have Shanna Burkholz-Vasquez, whom you just heard from. She's the Associate Director of the Early Education Division, as well as Valentina Ware, Child Development Consultant, who will be introduced later in the webinar during our panel discussion portion. In addition to our CDE team, you'll also have the opportunity to hear from our incredible external partners representing a wide range of educational entities across California. Next slide, please. So to get us started, I'd first like to share some background on how California uses social and emotional learning to reduce exclusionary discipline. Our approach to reducing exclusionary discipline is grounded in the multi-tiered system of support, or MTSS, which integrates academic, behavioral, and social and emotional learning, or SEL, supports into one coherent statewide framework. This integration ensures SEL is not an add-on, but really a foundational support that addresses student needs through a whole child lens, prioritizing students' emotional well-being, relationships, and a sense of safety. And by promoting belonging and emotional regulation, MTSS strengthens the overall school community, lead to lowering incidents that can sometimes lead to exclusionary discipline. California also incorporates evidence-based practices such as positive behavioral intervention and supports, or PBIS, restorative strategies, and universal screening into MTSS. These approaches increase engagement, they reduce behaviors that are challenging to adults, and they create consistent supportive environments across schools. Through the scaling up of MTSS statewide, or SUMS initiative, California invests heavily in SEL, in trauma-informed practices, as well as in culturally affirming approaches. This includes both funding, training, and technical assistance to help districts build capacity, as well as to adopt non-punitive practices that keep students connected to learning. The state's MTSS pilots also prioritize strengthening student-teacher relationships and increasing engagement. These elements directly reduce exclusionary discipline by offering alternative responses and earlier intervention. Overall, social-emotional learning within the multi-tiered system of support is the foundation of California's prevention-focused strategy, supporting students proactively and significantly reducing reliance on suspension, soft suspensions, and expulsion. I'm now going to hand it back to Shanna to share some policies and to introduce our guest speaker. Next slide, please.
Thanks, Steve. California has reinforced its SEL-based prevention work with strong policy protections for young children. In 2022, AB 2806 prohibited suspension and expulsion in state-subsidized childcare and preschool programs, including services for infants and toddlers, ensuring young learners are not removed for behavioral reasons and instead receive supportive interventions. To operationalize this, in September 2023, the CDE Early Education Division released Management Bulletin 2308. This bulletin clarifies requirements for California state preschool programs, or CSPP contractors, outlining when and how programs may address behaviors that challenge adults without resorting to suspension, soft suspension, expulsion, or unenrolling a child, reinforcing equitable, developmentally appropriate approaches. We'll also find many resources to support CSPP contractors, staff, and families regarding children with behavior that challenge adults. In May 2025, CDE issued an update reminding districts of California's commitment to equitable, non-discriminatory discipline. The letter emphasizes that exclusionary discipline must be minimized, that students of all backgrounds must be treated equitably, and that schools should continue to reduce suspension, soft suspension, and expulsion while addressing safety concerns through supportive, non-punitive methods. CDE reiterated that every child deserves consistent access to learning and that racial disparities in discipline remain unacceptable. The update directs local educational agencies, or LEAs, to rely on guidance and resources, such as CDE's School Discipline Resources page, to support legally compliant, equity-centered discipline practices. Together, AB 2806, Management Bulletin 2308, and the 2025 CDE guidance strengthen California's aligned statewide effort, reducing exclusionary discipline through supportive, SEL-driven, developmentally appropriate, and equitable practices. Next slide. Now, it's my pleasure to introduce the fabulous Crystal Hawkins. Crystal is a dedicated educator with the San Francisco Unified School District, where she develops and administers all aspects of the highly successful and state-recognized Shoestrings Children's Center, an early childhood program in Bayview, Hunters Point, San Francisco. In addition to Crystal's work at Shoestrings Children's Center, she is a licensed clinical social worker with her pupil personnel services credential and graduate from Norfolk State University with a master's in clinical social work, where she also received her bachelor degree in sociology. Crystal worked as a highly recognized clinician supporting parents and guardians with children who are at risk for out-of-home placement. Her career in social work and public education has included program development, facilitating training, child and adolescent mental health, SEL, parenting young children with special needs, and trauma-informed practices. While working in the early childhood setting, Crystal co-founded Black Girl, Brown Girl Books with her childhood best friend to emphasize the importance of representation of Black and Brown characters in books for children 0 to 8 years old. She's the founder of C. Hawkins and Associates, LLC. C. Hawkins and Associates, LLC promotes early childhood education through professional development and workshops to human services agencies, business organizations, and school districts. In addition, she also provides individual and family therapy services in Oakland, California. Crystal is a co-founder of Melanated Well, a group of Black mental health and wellness professionals that are intentional about supporting the Black community with their healing journey. The mission is to empower the Black community to thrive by designing, implementing, and taking ownership of their personal mental health and wellness. As a lecturer at San Francisco State University and the University of California at Berkeley, Crystal Hawkins loves merging real-life social work experiences with learning that takes place in the classroom. She is an active and vocal advocate, bringing youth, parents, caregivers, and educators' voices to local and state government in order to create change on a systemic level. We are so excited to have Crystal here with us today. She is dynamic. You are going to so enjoy listening to her. I'm going to now pass it over to Crystal.
Thank you so much. I feel like I want to know Crystal Hawkins. She sounds pretty amazing. Thank you all. Before I get started, I'm going to tell you about a really fabulous program, right? And it's not only because I developed the program and I'm director over it, but it's fabulous in the sense that it works. So if there's anything you take from our time together today, please know that you too can build this program in your LEA, in your school district. So hold on tight to that as we go through our journey together of telling you about the Shoestrings Children's Center. Next slide. I often say, as my bio shares all these great things, I say I want to moonlight as a game show host. So we are going to get into it. I'm going to play a little true or false icebreaker to get into the conversation for today. And I would like for you to send a thumbs up if it's true and a thumbs down if it's false. All righty, here we go. Channeling my Steve Harvey. Boys make up most of the students suspended from preschool. Thumbs up for true, thumbs down for false. All right. That is correct. Black boys are more likely than their peers to be referred to special education programs due to behavioral issues. Thumbs up for true, thumbs down for false. All right, 2-0. It's looking like the Lakers in here. All right. The preschool to prison pipeline is primarily a behavior problem, not a system problem. Thumbs up for true, thumbs down for false. Okay, so we're 2-0. It's looking like we must have some Warrior fans in the webinar today. That is actually false. The preschool to prison pipeline is not a behavior problem. It is truly a systems problem. And we're going to get into systems work today. Thank you all. So true, boys make up most of the students suspended from preschool. True, Black boys are more likely than their peers to be referred for special education programs due to behavioral issues. And false, regarding the preschool to prison pipeline being primarily a behavior problem, not a systems problem. Next slide. I want to take you on a journey of Kyle. And on this journey of Kyle, it's important to think about how data plays a role in the work we do when we think about systems. And we just talked about how systems can impact our students, but also how throughout the journey, we may see some signs that point into where we can do things differently. I often like to start this journey with, for us early childhood educators, with our preschool age students. So in Kyle's academic journey, he starts out in preschool, has about a 70% attendance rate, has some difficulty following directions, may have some tantrums that'll include head banging. With the family, there has been some involvement with CPS, Child Protective Services, for domestic violence, homelessness, unstable housing, and children are told not to play with Kyle when he comes to school at 4 years old. So as Kyle moves on throughout his time in school, now we're seeing Kyle in the 3rd grade. Attendance rate about 68%, 48 office discipline referrals. His mother refuses to consent for special education assessment. He really likes math, like a lot. He cannot read, so classmates often refer to him as stupid. Contact with the San Francisco Police Department has been made regarding Kyle and his school needs. The school community feels unsafe when Kyle's at school, and there has been a request to transfer Kyle to a non-public school. Next slide. So we met Kyle at 4th grade, learned a little bit more around 3rd grade. They're considering a non-public school. Well, folks that know, non-public school, 1 year can be up to $150,000 per student. So now we have Kyle in the 7th grade. Attendance rate, about 65%. Some bullying, being called quote unquote homeless boy. He doesn't know how to ignore them. He hates all classes except math, and Kyle cannot read. There's some shoplifting. He's been arrested, and his brother was shot and killed, and Kyle has a gun. Kyle goes on, 7th grade, 8th, 9th, 10th. We now have Kyle in 11th grade. Attendance rate about 48%. He's been detained by the Guidance Youth Center. He has about 35 credits, severely off track when it comes to graduation. There's constant fighting, suspensions. In 11th grade, 24 days. 10th grade, 32 days. 9th grade, 18 days. Multiple wellness center groups, one-on-one counseling, and boys groups. Dislikes teachers except for one. Next slide. When we think about data and how that informs all of our work, policy, practices, and procedures, the story of Kyle talks about his journey from 4 years old in preschool all the way up to 11th grade. I wonder how we could use data or could have used data to support Kyle with having a different and or more successful academic journey. I want to tell you about the program, Shoestrings Children's Center, and how we use data. There's going to be 4 components to this program, and keeping in mind that you too can build this program in your LEA or your community-based preschool. The importance of data is that data tells a story. And we're using data in a way that we tie multiple data sources together to analyze patterns, correlations, and to guide our decision making. We use data to establish preschool suspension data. We know suspending preschoolers is illegal, right? Can I get some thumbs up for true, thumbs down if that's false? Right. And it's not developmentally appropriate. But we used our data with sign-in and sign-out sheets to see what was the days looking like for our preschool students. Remember, Kyle was 4 in about preschool, so we're starting with our youngest learners. Additionally, we use data to evaluate the efficacy of our tiered support. So when we think of the multi-tiered systems of support, tiers 1, 2, and 3, we looked at our tier 1 and tier 2 strategies to see if, in fact, the strategies are being implemented with fidelity, and are they doing, in fact, what we hope they do to meet the needs of our students? Next slide. Additionally, data was used to improve program progress and monitoring. It's really important that once you use data, we're using data to tell the story, but also to ensure that we're doing, in fact, what we set out to do. Strategies are being implemented with fidelity to meet the needs of our students. but also to track progress and see what do we as the adults in the system need to do differently. And additionally, it's so important to for attendance flagging, developing and refining systems for early attendance concern. We can't support the needs of our students if they're not with us in school. Next slide. Here we go, more data. This is the 23-24 school year data from the San Francisco Unified School District. Again, I'm a lot of things, not a game show host and not necessarily a mathematician. However, I know when I look at this data set, it's alarming. When you look in yellow, that is the total enrollment for the 23-25 school year, broken down by racial, ethnic demographics. And then in pink, you have the suspension rate. So in the 23-24 school year, SFUSD total enrollment for African American students pre-K-12 was about 6%. However, of the suspensions in the 23-24 school year, African American students made up 10% of our suspension data. 6% of the enrollment, 10% of all school suspensions. Next slide. So with the story, if we're still holding Kyle in our hearts and in our minds, we saw what happened through his academic journey from 4 years old all the way to 11th grade. And in designing Shoestrings, we wanted to use data to inform our work, but to also ensure that we're meeting the needs of the students and families we serve. So the first component of our program was data. The second part is partnership. If you know you work in education, you cannot do this work alone. So it's important to have relationships inside the district as well as partnerships with your community-based organizations. Because again, although the students may be enrolled in your school, they are part of a larger community. So in San Francisco Unified, when we were developing Shoestrings, the program is housed in our early education department, and we partnered with LA Education and Elementary. We partner with our students' family school division, as well as our special education department. The community partners we worked with was First 5 California, City and County of San Francisco, Department of Children, Youth and Family, the Mayor's Office, the Department of Public Health, and Support for Families with Children with Disabilities. Again, we wanted to ensure that while we were taking care of the children that were in our school districts, meaning their social, emotional, and academic needs, we also had the partnership in the community for wraparound services. Next slide. Shoestrings is great, and it is modeled after an amazing program. I'm from LA, so if you're ever in the SoCal area, want to go down to the high desert, please be sure to stop by Desert Mountain Children's Center. Desert Mountain is the guru for this work and the program that we modeled the Shoestrings Children's Center after. Desert Mountain is its own SELPA. They provide services from birth to age 22. At any time, they may have 2,000 cases open serving children or families in their community. And the program Shoestrings is modeled after is their CARE 10-week cohort model. CARE is comprehensive assessment, research, and evaluation, where they use 10-week cycles to support students meeting their social, emotional, and sensory integration needs. So we always want to give a shout out to Desert Mountain because they helped us in developing the Shoestrings Children's Center that we were able to take their medical model and fit it into a school district. Next slide. All right, holding Kyle in our minds and our hearts and his journey. We talked about data being one of the components, partnerships. The next component of the Shoestrings Children's Center is having a targeted population. In developing the Shoestrings program, we looked at our data for students that was in the 2nd and 3rd grade. And similarly to Kyle, realizing we could have provided intervention earlier with our students being suspended and expelled or referred for special education for OHI, other health impairments, or emotional disturbances. We wanted to start with our youngest learners to set them up for a successful academic journey. So our targeted population are pre-K students, transitional kindergarten students, and kindergarten students between the ages of 3.5 to 6 that are not getting their needs met in the classroom, so who demonstrate serious behavior issues that I want to note are in general education. This program is on the general education side of school services and supports. Next slide. All right, the mission and vision of the Shoestrings Children's Center. The vision of Shoestrings Children's Center is to support the individual needs of students and families who continue to face barriers to school success, particularly in settings that struggle to create and sustain supportive and nurturing school environments. The mission of the Shoestrings Children's Center is to use an intentional and intensive program design that utilizes developmentally age-appropriate and therapeutic interventions to support social relationships, personal adjustment, classroom adjustment, self-care, and chronic behaviors. Next slide. So I want to tell you about a day at Shoestrings. Holding Kyle in our hearts and in our minds. I wonder if Kyle had this level of intervention in preschool and support, but the 7th and 11th grade look differently for him. At Shoestrings, children's behaviors are normalized, hard moments. I often give this example of living in the East Bay and driving across the Bay Bridge to San Francisco every day. I typically wait to the very last minute to merge over in the toll booth. So similarly to how children have hard moments, for adults, we also have hard moments. So normalizing those hard moments, we do that intentionally at Shoestrings. We offer opportunities to make mistakes and develop without feeling like they are getting in trouble. Families and children feel safe and seen, connected. We lead in a non-judgmental approach to supporting children and collaborating with families. Additionally, opportunities to build friendship and community. That's what a day at Shoestrings is intentionally designed for our students and families to experience. Next slide. A little bit about the program. Shoestrings uses the Desert Mountain Cares 10-week cohort model. So we'll have a fall cohort that will go for 10 weeks from September to November. We are currently in our winter cohort that will go from January, lies and fairy tales. We are in our spring cohort. Our winter cohort went from January to March. Our spring cohort goes from March to June, and our summer cohort will go from June to August. And during this 10-week cohort, it's truly like a 13-week partnership. As we mentioned in our vision and our mission, it's really relational trust, and creating safe, nurturing environments is really important for our students. So before a child starts in a 10-week cohort session, we do 2 weeks of pre-cohort observations. And during those 2 weeks of pre-cohort observations, each of my team members, we have social workers, behavior interventionists, occupational therapists, and a speech therapist. They observe the student in their classroom environment for 2 weeks. Typically, they observe how the child interacts with their peers, the environment, the adults, as well as how the adults interact with other students in the classroom. Because by the time you're referred to a Tier 3 program, all the adults that may come in the classroom are for you. So we're observing these interactions. And when my staff goes out to the school sites for the pre-cohort observations, they speak to every student in the classroom, and the child that has been referred to Shoestrings, they speak to them last, really normalizing their presence. But also, again, when you've been referred to a Tier 3 program, all the adults that may come in the room are for you. So really normalizing our presence. We'll have a 10-week cohort where the children are on site at Shoestrings 3 days a week, 3 hours a day for the course of the 10 weeks, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday from 9:30 to 12:30. The children start at school or home, depending on the time of day their school starts. In San Francisco Unified, our elementary schools will start either at 7:50, 8:40, or 9:30. So depending on the start of their school day, we will pick them up from school or pick them up from home using our school district public transportation, which is Zoom. So children are picked up from home or school. They're brought to shoestrings for the 3-hour block, 3 hours a day, 3 days a week over the course of 10 weeks, and transported back to their school in the afternoon. During their time here, we're taking notes and we're detailing what strategies we use, the language we use, and how the children responded to those strategies and interventions. And those notes are sent home, one set to the family and one set to the school site. And the beauty in having the children transition back to their school site in the afternoon is so they can generalize their learning. All the strategies that they learned earlier in the shoestrings day, they're able to put into practice in real time. During our cohort, we end with an amazing graduation celebration. I'm going to invite folks to come out to visit Shoestring. So that'll be something additionally we can invite you to join. It's really beautiful to see it's led by the children. And then after our graduation, we'll have a transition week where my team is in each child's classroom for about an hour per day during that transition week, modeling the strategies we've learned over the course of the 10 weeks to support with a successful warm handoff. When the students are here Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, I'm going to tell you more about the activities they have access to, but our cohorts focus on emotional vocabulary, not only identifying feelings, but being able to understand and give context to why an emotion is being felt. Developmentally age-appropriate emotional skill building, identifying and learning needs is really important. That's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. And on Thursday and Friday, my staff will rotate in each of the students' classroom for about an hour, modeling the strategies they learned that worked really well with the students earlier in the week and supporting the teacher, school social workers, if there's any additional support staff on site, PBIS coaches, principals are sometimes on site as well, supporting them with implementing the strategies so that the student can be successful. Noting that 10 weeks goes by really quickly and day one is gradual release for us. Next slide. Transportation. In the school district, our school district transportation is Zoom. The really cool part about Zoom, in addition to having school buses, they also have vans. So our students are transported in vans, about 3 to 4 kids per car. In the vans, and that the parents, they get an app. It's like Uber or Lyft for kids. The parents get to watch the app in real time. They have all the driver information. And my team, we have the dashboard. We're tracking the ride in real time. We also do training for the Zoom staff. We do a shoestrings orientation to understand the needs of our students in their cars. But not only that, so our students know when you're with your Zoom quote unquote teacher, you're still earning marbles for being a first time listener. And we also provide the Zoom drivers with social emotional sensory kits that if during the ride, if our students have some needs, they have some strategies and interventions that they can access immediately. Next slide. The block schedule. Let me tell you, 3 hours a day with these amazing children goes by really quickly. We use 20-minute block schedules with 5-minute transition period between each block. And I'm going to go deeper what the block activities are. We provide breakfast, lunch, and snack for all children. And our longest block, we have group interaction, which all the kids are together for group interaction play therapy. So while children have their individual schedule, there are 3 times a day when our students are together. That's our circle time, all of our meals, and our group interaction play therapy. Next slide. So let me tell you about the blocks. Komochi Circle, I'm not sure if folks are familiar with Komochis. Komochis is a social emotional curriculum. Komochi is Japanese for feelings. We've really taken the curriculum and made it our own and implementing it into our circle time activities, where it's really important for kids to learn emotions and give context, build emotional vocabulary, really understanding it's okay to be mad, it's not okay to be mean. Also, what does it mean to feel proud and brave and curious? really building our students' emotional vocabulary so they can advocate for themselves, but also identify needs so we can know what strategies of support will best help them. We also have group interaction play therapy, where we focus on moving from like parallel play to cooperative play, teaching skills of sharing, taking turns, initiating play. Am I using my words before my hands to connect with friends? We're using skits to teach social skills and age developmentally appropriate concepts in our group interaction. Next slide. We have workstations. Again, in mentioning staffing, no one on my team is a teacher. However, we know when children are together, learning happens, and we are not an educational setting. And for that, we are social emotional sensory integration. And so I'm going to speak to workstation in the sense that our behavior interventionists provide students with activities that they've mastered concepts of for reinforced mastery. Example given using discrete trial training, DTT. Discrete trial training is a modality used in applied behavior analysis, often used with children with autism. We're using it in fidelity to taking larger concepts to break it down in smaller steps in mastery. And once those skills have been mastered, whether it's personal identification, recognizing the letters in your name, emotional identification, whatever those lessons are, once they've mastered, students work on independently in workstation, just reinforcing those skills, running the activities back, using first and then prompts for mastery. In addition to Komochi Circle, we have Komochi Corner, where we talk about being brave and proud. We go a little deeper one-on-one using role play and activities to really get children to understand how to identify feelings and understand why they're feeling their feelings, what has happened, understanding antecedents, things that may happen before, behaviors, as well as our response to the behavior. So that's C for consequence. And I use consequence in its truest definition, meaning end result. Students have access to occupational therapy, which I believe that everyone today is going to come visit. So when you come visit, you'll see that our kids love this room like it is a Chuck E. Cheese room, child. It's so fun for them, but they have access to all swings, different type of tactile, proprioceptive activities and sensory input. While the kids are having fun each week, I believe this week is tactile week, but they have taste week, they'll have vestibular week, all these activities. I know the educators on the call know the importance of how often that sensory needs can be misidentified as challenging behaviors. But we as educators know that our circle time should not be 30 minutes, right? Thumbs up. Thumbs up. Circle time should, all right, I thought, okay, I found my people. Yes, we do not need 30-minute circle times. And what happened, oh, another one. Okay, so with these circle times that are not 30 minutes, we are not saying that all students have to sit crisscross applesauce. Thumbs up, right? Okay, I lost my people. Oh, heart anthem. Okay, thumbs up. Sometimes we may see our students sit like a mermaid, or they may lay down, or do we have flexible seating options? What's really important about OT, we've learned that how children access the learning. If you've ever seen your learners sit in a W, like, oh, they maybe need vestibular input. They're still attending to the learning, but I'm providing my body with the sensory input it's needed so they can access the learning. That is really important. And while our kids are in OT having so much fun, my occupational therapist is taking data so she can create a sensory diet that we share with the families and the teachers, so we can immediately start implementing strategies in the home and the school so our students can be successful. We have language enhancement, which is really important. In looking through our data in San Francisco Unified School District, we saw that speech has been a gateway into special education for students. So for us, having access to speech therapy through language enhancement on the general education side has been really important in understanding social and speech pragmatics how are our students using language to share their thoughts, wants, feelings, and needs, but also navigate social relationships has been really important in this work we've done or we're doing. And special playtime is really cool. Special playtime is modeled after PCIT, parent-child interactive therapy, where we have caregivers come in and they're observed through a one-way mirror by our behavior interventionist, and they're provided with real-time coaching. We often ask families, can you share a time in the home where there may be harder moments experienced between you and your child? Often it's transitioning from preferred to non-preferred activities, going from the iPad to reading a book. So when we have the family and the child come in, the family will have a wireless earpiece, and our behavior interventionist is coaching them on the opposite side of the one-way mirror through a microphone on how to prompt the child from transitioning from the iPad, giving them cues, visual timers, and language to support with transitioning from that preferred activity, the iPad, to possibly non-preferred activity, reading. So we provide real-time coaching to families. It's a beautiful thing to see where we've had families come in when a family may have had a new baby and the student in shoestrings is no longer the baby of the family. So really strengthening that family connection and providing strategies in real time. Next slide. All right. We're holding Kyle in our hearts and in our minds. We talked about the components of shoestrings. The first would being data, second being partnerships, third being targeted population, and fourth being family-centered. The Beauty in Shoestrings program is that we have family orientation. We have whole group family workshops where we normalize behaviors and have topics based on the needs of the students in the cohort, that families in that cohort get to share whole group. And we have individual caregiver connections. I don't know where in the city of San Francisco for free you can have access to one-on-one occupational therapists, social workers, speech therapists, and behavior interventionists to learn more about the needs of your child. It's really beautiful the partnerships we offer to families, or partnerships we have with families, when it comes to meeting the needs of their students, honoring that families are their children's first teachers, so we cannot do this without partnering with them. Next slide. So in addition to partnering with families, we partner with schools. I mentioned about the special playtime where they can come in and we strengthen the parent-child connection, but also provide real-time coaching and strategy intervention. Next slide. And partnering with schools is just as important. Shoestrings use a whole child approach where we do work here at Shoestrings, partnering with the child, working with the child, partner with the family is just as important. We partner with schools. We have teacher orientations. We have bi-weekly check-ins with the school sites where the entire Shoestrings team will meet with the teacher, the principal, and the support staff every other week to talk about what's working well, areas of concern, but also supporting school sites with developing a site accountability plan that based on the needs of their student that has been referred to Shoestring, what's the plan of support? Because again, we only partner for 10 weeks. 10 weeks goes by really quickly, and day one is gradual release for us. So in addition to the bi-weekly meetings and the teacher orientations, the Shoestrings team members are on site every Thursday and Friday for an hour, where they're in the classroom supporting the teacher and the school staff with implementing strategies we learned worked really well earlier in the week with the students so that they can be successful. Next slide. All right, in the beginning, I hope you remember I said, hold true that you too can have your very own Shoestrings. You can call it all the amazing things you'd like to call it. But it's important to know, how am I using the funds in my school district to design Shoestrings? You can use Title I funds. If your school is sanctioned by CDE for being significantly disproportionate, you can use your CSACE funds, your Comprehensive Coordinated Early Intervening Services Fund. You can do Medi-Cal billing is an option. Also, philanthropy dollars, prop dollars, children initiatives. This is where it's really important to strengthen those relationships with your community-based organizations, because if you have early childhood mental health consultation, consultants can also partner and work in your program. So it's important to think through how can you design your own shoestrings using current funding and ways to get creative through partnership. Next slide. Listen, can't stop, won't stop. Please, I would love to be in touch with you so we can discuss what you're thinking as a result of learning about shoestrings. We can discuss what you're feeling, and we can discuss what you're planning to do. I look forward to hearing from folks. I'm even more excited to have you come visit our shoestrings. When you reach shoestrings program, when you reach out, be sure that you're ready to connect on a Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday between 9:30 to 12:30 so you can see our program live and in action. Thank you.
Slide.
Yes, can't stop, won't stop. Some resources. I'm really excited to share. Links will be shared with you all. Shoestrings, the program that designed with such intentionality, wanted to ensure that we were doing what we set out to do. So we partnered with Stanford to do our research. And our research, when you get this article, you'll see, or the report, you'll see it's cohorts 1 through 19. I am excited to share that we are in the third week of our 29th 10-week cohort. So really excited about that. From our Stanford research, we partnered on a policy report in form of exclusionary discipline practices in U.S. schools, policy considerations. There's a couple more reports and links and articles that we're sharing so you can learn more about shoestrings, and more importantly, think how you can make your own shoestrings in your school district, your community-based preschool, or your community-based organization.
Thank you so much. I did want to let you know that we actually did not have a thumbs down option. So some of those shocked faces were people were using in lieu of the thumbs down. I know a lot of people in here did not want you to think that they got that last question wrong. We just did not provide them a thumbs down option like we thought we would. But everyone, can you go ahead and just throw some emojis in and up on the screen so that we can make sure that Crystal gets all of the love that she and her team should get for this amazing work. I know you all are interested in hearing more about how to fund this. That was a lot of the questions that came into the Q&A. So please reach out to Crystal. We had the ability to go to the very first day of this current cohort. And to say that we were in awe is an understatement. We would never have known it was their first day. Everything was moving so smoothly. The students were so engaged. It was so awesome to get to see firsthand. So please take her up on that offer and go visit if you are able to. It's a generous offer on her part, and it's just, you will leave so inspired that you will want to start something like this where you are as soon as you can. So thank you so much for all of that. We are excited now to move into our panel discussion for the day. Our moderator for today's discussion is Valentina Ware. If you come to our webinars, you know Valentina very well. She's a child development consultant in the Associate Director's Office within the Early Education Division at CDE. She has over 20 years of experience working in early learning settings, which include early Head Start, California State preschool programs, and private preschool programs, serving in a variety of direct service roles that were in the capacity of support, educator, content specialist, and coach. She's also a mother to a blended family of 5 children, 2 boys and 3 girls, ages 6, 16, 19, 21, and 23 years old. She will now introduce our panelists who will be sharing their insights and expertise during today's discussion on the topic of supports to improve social and emotional development and reduce exclusionary discipline to strengthen P-3 learning environments. Thank you, Valentina, for moderating this panel today. Next slide.
Awesome. Thank you, Shanna, for that great introduction. I am really happy to be here today moderating this panel. This topic is really close to my heart, not only as an educator, but also as a parent with a child that experienced exclusionary discipline at a young age of 2 years old. He's doing much better now, but just to kind of paint a little bit of a picture of how close I carry this to myself. All right, so to begin introductions, first we have Jaquilla Burris. Jaquilla is a dedicated K-6 credentialed transitional kindergarten teacher, or TK teacher, with Fresno Unified School District, holding a certificate of early learning, education, and strong foundation in early literacy, social emotional development, and evidence-based instructional strategies. She is extremely committed to creating inclusive, student-centered learning environments that support both academic achievement and whole child development. Jaquilla actively serves her school community as a member of the School Site Council and the School Climate and Culture team, collaborating with colleagues to foster a positive and supportive school environment. Trained in peer-based instruction and intervention, the teaching pyramid framework, and second step social emotional learning, she brings practical strategies to support student growth. In addition, Jaquilla serves as a site ambassador to the Foundation for Fresno Unified Students and as a cluster leader for the district's Advancing Academic Acceleration and Achievement Reading Program, or you might be familiar with it as A4. Supporting literacy instruction across schools. Now, she's also a member of the Community of Practice for Belonging-Centered Classrooms and is currently pursuing a master's degree in reading and language. Second, we have Jonte McQueen. Jonte is a lifelong resident of San Francisco's Bayview neighborhood, where her family has deep generational roots dating back to her grandmother's youth. One of her grandmothers, Julia Comer, was part of the Bayview's Big Five, a group that played a key role in advocating for housing and school development in the community. She's a single mother of 2 sons, Jordan, who's 20, and Jael, who is 10. Jonte is a dedicated community and school leader who serves on several parent boards, including the Alice Fong Yu Parent Board, where she's a board member and president of the Parent Black Student Union, as well as the Way May After School Parent Board. She also volunteers as a mom for the San Francisco Brown Bomber youth football team. Now, professionally, I know we dropped a few links in chat. Jonte works for the San Francisco Public Defender's Office as a felony paralegal, supporting 3 felony attorneys and participating in community events connected to her office's programs. She previously spent 5 years working with San Francisco's juvenile probation. Now, the Shoestrings program is deeply meaningful to Jonte, both personally and professionally, given her experience witnessing the impact of incarceration on families and communities. She's especially passionate about the program's focus on emotional expression and healing, skills historically discouraged in many communities. Enrolling her son in Shoestrings when he was 4 was transformative. He's now 10. This gave me goosebumps. His emotional awareness and vocabulary reflect the lasting impact of the tools that the program provided. You can go ahead and go to the next slide, please. Fourth, we have Letitia Irving. Letitia brings more than 25 years of leadership and service within the San Francisco Unified School District, where she has been a fierce and consistent advocate for educational equity and Black student achievement. As executive director of the African American Achievement and Leadership Initiative, she leads system-wide efforts that center community voice, cultivate strategic partnership, and strengthen district accountability for outcomes that matter to Black students and families. Grounded in family and community development, her leadership is shaped by deep experience as a family liaison and program manager for the African American Parent Advisory Council, and is rooted in authentic relationships. cultural affirmation, and collective power. She also serves on the SMART program board of directors and is a proud parent of 2 remarkable young women. And finally, we have Jocelyn Vargas. Jocelyn is the School Culture and Character Coordinator at Orange County Educational Arts Academy, where she leads school-wide systems that promote student belonging, social-emotional development, and positive behavior. With over a decade of experience in education, including 8 years as a bilingual elementary teacher and lead teacher, she specializes in culturally responsive practices and inclusive school culture. Ms. Vargas leads the implementation of SEL frameworks such as MTSS and PBIS, collaborates with school leaders on instruction and improvement, and supports educators through professional development and coaching. We gotta love coaching, right? All with a focus on reducing exclusionary discipline practices and supporting equitable student outcomes. You can go ahead and go to the next slide, please. All right, so now that we have introduced our panelists, I will review the questions that I will be asking them for our discussion panel before we take down the slides and begin our discussion. So for question 1, how can strong, developmentally appropriate social and emotional learning, or SEL practices in preschool through 3rd grade help address early behavior concerns in ways that prevent exclusionary discipline, including suspensions, soft suspensions, and expulsions? And then question 2, what does culturally responsive SEL look like in early learning environments, and how can it contribute to more consistent, equitable experiences for children across settings? Next slide, please. Thank you. Question 3, how can schools and communities work together with families to support children's social emotional growth, and what approaches help families feel welcomed, respected, and included in problem solving? And finally, question 4, what kinds of professional learning or ongoing support help adults feel confident using SEL-informed approaches, especially when responding to behaviors that may feel challenging? All right, now we'll go ahead and take down our slides and begin our discussion panel. I want to make sure that I can see everybody. Let's see, can I see everyone? All right, so it looks like, oh, there's Jocelyn. I see Letitia. Still need to see Jacola and Jante. We're getting there slowly but surely. All right. I'm so excited for this conversation. We've met a couple of times and everyone here has some really great answers. So I'm going to go ahead and start us off. I'm such a visual learner, so I'm going to make sure that I'm repeating the question for people that are also visual learners in the audience and aren't able to see the questions anymore. So for the panelists, if you need a reminder of what the question is again, please feel free to let me know. Just a reminder too, we want to make sure that this panel discussion is conversational. So even though I may be calling on your names, if you feel the need to jump in out of turn, that's completely fine. All right. Okay, so beginning with question 1, how can strong, developmentally appropriate social and emotional learning, or SEL practices in preschool through 3rd grade help address early behavior concerns in ways that prevent exclusionary discipline, including suspensions, soft suspensions, and expulsions? And for this question, I'm going to pass it over to Jacola. She's our TK teacher and want her to get us started since she's boots on the ground. Go ahead, Jacola.
Okay, thank you so much, Valentina. Well, I know from my experience in the classroom, I've seen how taking the time to focus on social emotional learning can really help the students, manage those hard times and get through those transitions. Sometimes students don't yet know how to identify their feelings. Like, this is something that has to be explicitly taught to them, just like walking in line and waiting their turn and things of that nature. So they may just cry and act out because they don't have the words to express what they're really feeling. So if they haven't been taught the skills, how can we really expect them to use them, And I know it's sad for me because working in a school district, when time starts to feel limited, I've seen a lot of teachers who kind of cut out the social emotional learning because that's something like, oh, well, it's not academic necessarily, even though it is. So we don't have to get to that. And that makes me kind of sad. But these skills, especially in TK and early years, these are the skills that they're really going to need to be successful in the later grades. So I feel like as a teacher who like completely buys into SEL learning, I feel like it's the most important thing that I can do for my students, is to teach them how to sit and attend and to be able to name their feelings and, because even if they don't pick up a letter or a number or anything of that nature, they can go through that again in kindergarten. But if they can sit and they can tell you what's wrong with them, then they'll be way more successful for future grades.
All right. Thank you so much, Jaquilla. Definitely making sure that we're first teaching our young learners the skills that we want them to be showing us. It's hard for them to be able to show us something when they have not had the opportunity to practice those skills. And then definitely touching on that buy-in, especially because children can't learn the content if they're rolling around on the carpet, right? So making sure that we're practicing those skills so that children, once they do reach that they are having those social and emotional skills, they're able to receive that academic information. Now, with that said, I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to Jocelyn, because I know, Jocelyn, you were talking about how in your school, you guys definitely prioritize SEL to the point that it's the first thing that you guys are doing in the day and it never gets left out. So could you tell us a little bit about that, Jocelyn?
Yeah, of course. I'm happy to. Yeah. So here at Orange County Educational Arts Academy, we, obviously, like SEL is a huge component of our learning. So all of our students in TK through 8th have 30 minutes dedicated every single morning for, I guess most people would know it as a community circle or a morning circle, but we call it like our crew meeting, because all of our kids here are in a crew. They have a crew leader. And in this particular crew meeting, the focus is developing emotion regulation, talking about their habits of character, having like hard conversations with students about things that are currently happening to them or things that they experience in the classroom. So we know that our kids need to have relationships first with each other and the adult in the classroom. And so that's why we start our day with our crew meetings. It's not uncommon for our staff members like playground supervision to join a crew meeting. So those are all just practices that we have. So that's kind of like how we start all of our days, Monday through Friday, for all of our students, TK through 8th grade. So they're very familiar with, coming together in a circle, talking to each other about their feelings or problems. So that is just a culture that we've created. And then additional supports or layers that we have on top of this just, basic structure that we have also provide lessons to our teachers, what we call our crew meeting lessons, that support teachers in having these conversations with their students. And so I think this is helpful for our newest teachers too, coming into the classroom, how do I tackle SEL support, or how do I help a student, continue to develop their character, and how do I have hard conversations? And so these lessons provide them with that structure. And then aside from that, our kiddos will also take a survey through Panorama. And some students are then referred to what we call crew lab. And so it's, again, a very small targeted crew meeting for students outside of their instructional block. So we have multiple opportunities for students to engage with each other, to reflect on their own learning, SEL growth, through those structures. And then a huge practice at our school is having students engage in restorative circles. So if there is a conflict or something heavy on their mind that they want to have a conversation with about, even with adults or, other students, we provide that safe space for them in crew lab, where, we follow a particular structure, and then students are able to, work through any type of conflict or, heavy topic on their mind. So those are kind of the big structures that we have here on campus that supports our students in their social, emotional, and development that, students have really responded well to, and that families really enjoy too.
Thank you so much, Jocelyn. Definitely normalizing speaking about feelings and all feelings, Like there's no bad feelings. Like they're all feelings that we are experiencing, and creating those spaces where children can talk about what they are experiencing, and definitely focusing on relationships. So now I want to head over to you, Letitia, because we did talk a lot about relationships and how relationships are definitely foundational. So can you tell me a little bit? Let me go ahead and go back to the question to remind you of what the question is one more time. How can strong, developmentally appropriate social and emotional practices in preschool through third grade help address early behavior concerns in ways that prevent exclusionary discipline, including suspensions, soft suspensions, and expulsions?
Thank you, Valentina, and hello to everyone on the webinar. I'll start by grounding us in a not too foreign idea that at the core of what we label as behavior is really just communication. Our youngest learners are always communicating with us through their words, their actions, their behaviors. And so I think the question is more, are we prepared to listen, understand, and respond in ways that keep our children connected to learning and into the community? Too often, especially for African American and Black children, early behavior is misunderstood and quickly leads to that expulsion we're talking about, or the exclusion, and more subtle forms of removal from the classroom settings. But we know those experiences matter at the very beginning, right? They shape the identity and the belonging, the relationship to the school. So then when we start to see those behaviors continue as we go up from pre-K to 3 and then on, is because we didn't start by listening and understanding the way that they're communicating to us. So for me, this conversation is really about how do we create those environments where our kids are seen, where our families are valued, and where behavior is met with understanding, because we're listening to how they're communicating, paying attention to those little cues that they're giving us. That starts with relationship. Before a child even enters into the building, we should be asking, who is this child? What do we know about them? Who is their family? What do we know about their family? What is the community? Where is the community they come from? What are the strengths of that community, the strengths of the village? I think we have to step all the way back, and it just starts with first getting to know who's walking in our space, who will be sitting in our classroom, because often what a child is communicating is deeply informed by those experiences and those external factors. We have to honor our families, see our students and our families as experts of their own lived experience. To that end, I think it's important we have to talk about the difference between cultural competency and cultural humility. Cultural competency, as we've learned, suggests that I've studied you, I understand you. So we think as educators, we come in and we paid attention to this family a couple of days, or we've watched this student and we think that we know all about them, or we make the assumptions about who they are when they walk in the room. Whereas cultural humility is saying, you're the expert. I'm here to learn from you, right? And so once we're able to take that stance, I think you start to see the cultures within cultures, and then we can take the time to understand and value those differences that our young people bring. That's how relationships form. That's how we build these strong relationships. So for me, instead of us asking, how do we manage behavior? We have to start asking, how do we strengthen the relationship so that the behavior shifts? Start there. Instead of focusing on what's missing, let's talk about what strengths are already present that we can build on. And understanding that developmentally appropriate SEL in the earlier years is about building trust through relationships so that behavior is understood. And so someone once said to me, we have to say this in all of my meetings, it's connection before correction.
Absolutely.
Before correction.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Letitia. And it looks like your audio is, you're unfrozen now. For the whole time you were talking, you were frozen, but we could hear you completely clearly, but now you're moving again. So now we can see your smile. Thank you so much. Connection before correction. Absolutely. Relationships are at the heart of it all. And we don't want to create those environments for our families where if they see you, they start running because they think that you're going to say something negative or there's no relationship there. So definitely connection before correction, and really work on strengthening that relationship. Now, thank you again, Letitia. To wrap us up with this question, I want to kick it over to Jonte, our parent. I'm so excited. This is the first time we've ever had a parent on our discussion panel. So go ahead and give her some love in the chat as well. And we're excited that she's able to participate. Her son started at 4 years old in Shoestrings program, and now her son is 10 years old, and she is still seeing the benefits of having her child in this program. So we definitely appreciate having her be here. So Jonte, I'm going to kick it over to you. Let me know, how has this worked out for you being a parent in the shoestrings program when thinking about this question?
So because my son was given the tools to explain and use his emotional vocabulary, he's been able to not be suspended or expelled his whole time there. Not saying he hasn't had behavior issues, but when those things come up, he's able to say, this person was in my space, so I reacted this way. I asked this person to not touch me, and they kept touching me, so I hit them. Just being able to explain his feelings has kept him from getting any extra punishment. When I get calls from the school, they're like, he was very remorseful after he explained to us what happened, and he was able to. In other times, I have seen where children have been unable to express their feelings, so they end up crying and continuously acting out once they get in trouble, and the school is not able to contain that. So they'll call the parents, you need to pick him up, he's going to stay home, because they aren't able to get that connection and that communication with the child. But because my son was able to get those things from shoestrings, he's able to say and communicate those things. Now that he's 10, he still uses that, but now that he's older and his emotions are changing through going through puberty, he has these new big feelings that he's still having issues navigating. But because he's having issues navigating that, he has told me verbally, I don't like getting older because I have all these emotions I don't know what to do with. And I have to credit shoestrings for him being able to say that, because in our culture, we are always taught that for young men that feelings are not okay. You're supposed to be strong enough for your woman, strong enough for your children, strong enough to carry the burden, but you are not supposed to show your feelings. So I am very, very proud and happy that he was able to go through this program and able to give me those feelings and able to express those feelings with me, with his school, with his teachers. Shoestrings went into his classroom and also shared those things with him in the classroom. And it's always very helpful with the way he is navigated through school, because they know he's that way and that he's able to express, that they know that they're able to talk to him, and they know what he's saying is the truth and are his real feelings. So he doesn't get in more trouble. Most of the time he gets out of trouble because he's able to express those things. So heads up to Crystal. Thank you so much for all you've done with my in the show.
Thank you so much, Jonte. See right there, starting with early intervention, just like Crystal was saying earlier, when we were thinking about Kyle and going through the journey with him, had Kyle had the same experience as Jonte's son had at an early age, maybe his 11th grade or his whole entire school career would have been completely different. So if you can get access to these programs or work with families to help them with that social emotional learning that you're teaching them in school, so that there's still that home to school connection, all of these things are beneficial for the families, as you can see, witnessed by what Jonte has just said right now. So I'm going to go ahead and move us over to question 2. And for question 2, we have, what does culturally responsive SEL look like in early learning environments? And how can it contribute to more consistent, equitable experiences for children across settings? Now, for this question, we had some talk about different things that were going on in our community, different communities. So I'd like to go ahead and pass it over to Jocelyn so she could let us know how is their school being culturally responsive when it comes to SEL.
Yeah, thank you. So we are a charter school, so we have a lot of agency in the curriculum that we get to develop, which is great, helps us be really responsive to our students. Most of our students come from Spanish-speaking homes, so for us, but they're also not, like first-generation students here. So we try to both, affirm like their identity, knowing and realizing that they come from Spanish-speaking homes, but their, current experiences might be different from like their, family's experiences. So that's really important for us to first acknowledge, like that's the first step that we take. And like I said, because we have such, huge agency in the curriculum that we get to develop, because we are a charter, then, that also impacts in the decisions that we make in terms of the reading that we offer to our students. Like I had said earlier, our students are always with like their crew. So they start with their crew meetings, and then all of these, ideas that are like culturally relevant to them, they bring topics to us too. That, we're able to infuse those into our curriculum throughout the entire day. So, they're used to having, these hard conversations from like 8 o'clock in the morning all the way to like their last learning block. So at our school, we develop what we call case studies, which is like a focus on, a particular, social justice topic, relevant to our community, or, some other topic that the students are really interested in. But then again, that it has an impact on them. And then the big question is like, then what can I do about it? So that's really how we develop our case studies for our students. Aside from that, though, from making sure that like our readings are mirroring, like our students and their experiences, also honoring like their heritage. We also offer, different spaces for our older students to have these conversations at a different point, not just in their crew meetings and what we call our affinity crews. So we don't offer this to our youngest students, but they do participate in these conversations, TK all the way through 8th. But for our students in 6th through 8th, we offer additional spaces around topics that they're really interested in. And every year, they kind of change just based on, what our students want to have conversations about. So those are kind of like the big structures that we offer to make sure that, we are just being responsive to our students and their SEL needs. Also being mindful of, their cultural like experiences.
Definitely. Thank you, Jocelyn. Considering children's heritage and their current living experiences matter simultaneously. I know you did talk about some mirrors, so now I'm going to pass it over to Jaquilla, because I know, Jaquilla, you had talked about making sure that you have a lot of visuals that are reflective of the current children that are enrolled in your classroom. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Now I can. Okay. Yes. So I am very intentional about having visuals in my classroom that represent the children from the community in which I serve. Okay. I definitely incorporate about a bunch of multicultural books. I do believe that books serve as mirrors, windows, and doors to other cultures. We definitely celebrate a wide range of cultures and identities in my classroom. We celebrate everything from Black History Month, Hispanic Heritage, Asian Pacific Islander Month, Women's History Month. We celebrate all these things because they create meaningful opportunities for students and for me to explain why representation is so important and why inclusion matters to our students. Okay. And I know it's important for me to create a strong classroom culture in which students feel safe and feel seen. Because it's important for me, because I want every child to know that they're seen, valued, and supported in my classroom. I want to build that trust within the classroom. And I take it very personally because I'm the only African American teacher on my school grounds. So I really feel strongly about making sure everybody is seen, everybody feels
absolutely
seen. Important. Also, my school community, it's made up of mostly more than 50% Hispanic speaking. The next Spanish speaking or Hispanic culture. The next biggest demographic is Hmong. And I know I had to check myself and realize that I didn't know enough about the culture to be able to, represent them fairly and appropriately in classrooms. So I've reached out to, as far as making sure that I can create a positive environment for my Hmong students. I have signed up for additional trainings and things of that nature. I am in a big district, so they do offer some additional trainings. But I just want to make sure that I can learn as much as I can to be there for every student in a way that's, culturally respectful and appropriate. So,
absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jaquilla. And I think it's really great that you pointed out that you took the extra step to go out there and learn more about the Hmong culture that you were not familiar with. And I know we also talked about learning from the people who are actually living these experiences right now, not just assuming that what you read in the book is exactly what this person is living. Like Letitia, or I can't remember if it was Letitia or Crystal had said this, that there's cultures within cultures, right? So we can't make assumptions, and we shouldn't make assumptions if we are doing that. The importance, you also talked about the importance of having the environment reflect the children currently enrolled, and because you want to make sure that the children are feeling safe, and also too making sure that even though how you had said that you were the only Black teacher in your school, it's still important to bring awareness to that as well, because you matter as a leader in that school, and the children should also see that you matter by seeing your culture represented in their school environment. So definitely any small ways that we can continue the growth in this so that children feel comfortable and safe, we definitely want to continue to do that. So now I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to Letitia. Letitia, could you go ahead and respond to this question for us? Let me give a little bit of a reminder of what the question is. What does culturally responsive SEL look like in early learning environments, and how can it contribute to more consistent, equitable experiences for children across settings?
Yeah, I hope you guys can see me this time.
Yes.
I'm just going to jump on the bandwagon of what Jocelyn and what Jaquilla talked about. So for me, it comes back to belonging. Children are constantly asking, do I belong here? I mean, we heard adults are also asking, do I belong here? And so, you know, where they find that answer, they find it in the environment. The environment and how it's set up to welcome them, the behaviors of those charged to create and maintain that environment, what's happening with the adults in the space. And then to definitely talk about the same thing I think Jocelyn spoke on, and Jaquilla, culturally responsive SEL starts with making sure our children see themselves reflected. Shows up in everything, the books we choose, the way we structure their play, their visuals on the walls, the dolls, the puppets, and importantly, the adults that are in the space. And so I'll say this about adults. We have to, and I know this isn't easy to do when there's not a lot of Black educators or educators of color diversifying in every single space, but we have to be intentional about supporting and retaining educators of color. We know research has told us time and time again that having at least one teacher of color, particularly in elementary school, significantly boosts our children's academic performance, their attendance, it increases their graduation from high school, and then what they do further. It also reduces the suspensions because it fosters a sense of belonging. So as has been said already, representation matters, but sustainability does too. You can't just get your educators in there. You have to make sure that you're keeping them. And we have to be careful to create environments where our educators also feel supported, where they feel compensated. And they get their just dues as well, where they're walking in affinity as well. So back to our scholars and their environments, I recommend doing an audit of representation in our spaces. Several years ago, when I was with the African American Parent Advisory Council, still supporting them because they're under my department, but when I was their program manager within SFUSD, we did a survey. We worked with our previous Board of Education member, Allie Collins, and we came up with a survey, an audit of sorts. Is your school Black family friendly? And we gave that to our families to go and just audit. What do you see on the walls? What do you see in the representation of staff? And then what came out of that was Allie then creating an audit or a checklist for our school sites. So for our school sites to start doing a diverse library audit, looking at their libraries in all of our settings in those classrooms, making sure that you see representation of the children that are in your room. So pausing and reflecting what in this environment is working for this child. That includes our transitions, our routines, our instructional practices, but most importantly, how they see themselves reflected in the adults around them, what's in their walls, and what they have tangible in their hands.
Thank you so much, Letitia. See, Letitia, sorry, I did it again. Letitia. Now, everyone, this group is made up of some really strong advocates with such great ideas. And honestly, a lot of these are probably reminders, right? I'm sure that some of this information is not new to you, but it's possibly maybe subconsciously in the back of your mind. So if it's not new, let's bring it to the front of your mind, right? I know that educators wear many, many hats, and a lot of times it's hard to remember every single thing. So a lot of times it's okay to get a reminder of our why and why we were doing this work, and why we're continuing to do this work for the children and families. Now I'm looking at the time, we're at 4:53, and as usual, we're probably not going to get through all of the questions. But I do want to kick us off. I still want Jonte to be able to answer this question. Jonte, go ahead and take us home with this question from a parent's perspective. What does culturally responsive SEL look like in an early learning environment? And how can it contribute to more consistent, equitable experience for children across settings? So what was your experience like, considering like maybe when you were in the Shoestrings program, or maybe with your older child or your 10-year-old right now?
With Shoestrings, my cohort was not just Black kids. There were Latino kids and other kids of other cultures there. So what was being taught to my kid was being taught across the board. So it was culturally diverse. So you know that it's not geared just for your student or your African American child. Shoestrings also sent the language home with me that they used in the program so that I could implement that into my home, which also made him feel like I was connected and still doing the same work with Shoestrings. It's important as a parent that you are communicating with the people who are taking care of and teaching your child throughout the day. So I made a good connection with Shoestrings, and they were able to give me the language. I implemented it at home. And when I meet his new teachers, when he transitioned to kindergarten, I also am very upfront with the teachers about who my child is and where he struggles and what needs to happen. So I also gave them some of those tools too to begin with. And at his school, he goes to a predominantly Asian school. He goes to a Chinese immersion school. So he is the minority there. And so there, I also try to, as being the president and being active in his school, create an environment where I am building community within that school's community of African American kids, where they can all get the same things and be on the same page and all learn the same thing. So when I'm in the school, I talk to those kids the same way I talk to my child. If I see a kid in the office and it looks like they're having a rough day, I sit down one-on-one with them and use the same language that I was given through Shoestrings to help work with those African American kids as well. They also made books with my son in them, with the pictures of him in the books that talked about his feelings that they sent home with him, that I was able to read to him at night, that also helped him express his feelings and learn. And because they made those books, he saw himself in a different setting. So all those things gave me tools that I was able to implement in his culture, his community, and the things he did every day. So even when he has, like, sometimes he has moments where he's just sad, and he tells me, like, sometimes I just get sad for no reason and I don't know why. And I'm able to tell him, when you feel that way, talk to your teacher and then let them tell you that you need to call mom so you don't feel that way. If you're feeling alone, I don't want you to ever think that you are alone, so call me. And because I am able and we're able to have these kind of dialects, it means that as he's getting older, that suffering from depression things and going through all those other emotional things won't be so hard on him, because he is able to verbally say, this is how I'm feeling and this is what I'm going through. So what he learned at Shoestrings and in those early years will take him into his adult years and keep him from going through some of the mental things that some of the mental health issues that a lot of African American families and people deal with, that they were taught that they cannot express those feelings that way, and it sends them into deeper depressions.
Definitely. Thank you so much, Jonte. And, I really want to be able to get to the final question, but I'm looking at time once again, and we're at 4:56. So I don't think, unfortunately, we're not going to be able to get to it. But what I am going to do is tie in some of these ideas that you all shared. And the most important piece of the panel discussion is not to get through every single question, but it is instead to make sure that we're having that rich discussion and really giving authentic answers and not just trying to rush through. So because I don't want to rush through the last question, we're not going to do it today. But to just wrap up this panel discussion, I just want to highlight a few key points from our panelists today. First, we heard clearly that we can't expect children to demonstrate skills that they haven't been taught. Social and emotional learning must be intentionally modeled and practiced before academic learning can truly take hold. So it's not to say to step aside, we're going to do SEL for 30 minutes. No, this has to be embedded throughout your entire day, because children need to practice. And then our panelists also emphasize the importance of educator and leadership buy-in. So not pushing SEL to the end, but educators can't do that unless they have leadership buy-in. When administrators and program leaders actively support SEL, educators feel more confident embedding it throughout the day, and children are better positioned to learn and succeed. Now I'm trying to talk fast because I want to make sure I get this out. So let me slow down. I'm sorry, ASL interpreters. I'm probably going a little too fast right now. And another strong takeaway was the power of relationships. If you've been in these webinars, you've probably heard me say relationships. Nothing can happen without having a relationship first. Culturally responsive SEL practices grounded in family partnership, trust, and adult self-reflection, they all play a critical role in preventing exclusionary discipline and creating more equitable, consistent experiences for all children. So I just want to give a huge thank you to all of our panelists for sharing your expertise.
Can I say one more thing?
Yes.
Real quickly, I just wanted to point out that shoestrings also came into my son's kindergarten classroom when he transitioned to kindergarten. When they were in that classroom, they were using the language, and that was something the school had never seen. And the teacher also picked up on some of that language and started to use it in the class when she dealt with my son, which also makes a lot of difference in it. So that was a very important part that I wanted to put out that shoestrings does do, and that makes a big difference in how the school also treats and takes care of your child.
Yes, thank you, Jonte, for interrupting me. I know we talked about making sure that we were authentic, but we were all on cue today. But I appreciate that you jumped in and provided that, because that help with transition is key. If he put in all of that work, parents put in all of that work, and then they start a new program and they don't follow through, a lot of that work is going to be lost, and we don't want that, right? So once again, thank you so much, everyone. I really appreciate all of your experience shared today. I know, Jonte and Jakula, was your first time participating in a panel discussion, so definitely thank you so much for participating. Jocelyn and Letitia, you guys had such great information to share. We can go ahead and put the slides back up. Thank you for all the love showed in the chat. I know we're at 4:59. We're going to do the professional development certificate, and then I'm going to pass it over to Steve. All right. Thank you so much. Okay, so let's see. As mentioned at the start of the webinar, CDE is excited to offer professional development certificates to all attendees of this live session. Like Shanna said in the beginning, live is the key word. Your certificate will be emailed to the address you use for registration. If you do not receive it by April 28th, 2026, please contact us via the UPK mailbox. I'm sure you'll probably get it before April 28th. Nicole sends them and she's super fast. The link to the mailbox will be shared in the chat again now. As a reminder, certificates will be issued under the name used to register and log in for today's webinar, and only for the live attendees. I have to say it again just to emphasize. I'll go ahead and pass it over to Steve for reflections and closing. Thank you, everyone.
So much, Valentina. What an amazing discussion and amazing content shared by today's presenters. I want to take a moment to thank you all. Thank everyone who made this webinar possible. It's just, incredible. And I don't know about you all, but I had goosebumps nearly throughout. And Jonte sharing about the book her son got at Shoestrings, about his feelings that she was able to lead to him, and that just put me over. Like Shanna mentioned earlier, we had the chance to see the Shoestrings program in person and meet with Crystal and her team, and the entire experience was nothing short of amazing. Crystal shared a generous invite to folks wanting to visit, and I hope as many of you all are able to take her up on that offer. I want to thank all of the participants who made time in their busy day to attend this session and learn from the experts. Once again, thank you to our presenters, Crystal Hawkins, Jaquilla Burris, Jonte McQueen, Letitia Irving, Jocelyn Vargas. Just thank you from the bottom of my heart. I'd also like to thank our CDE team. Without their tireless effort and passion, this webinar would not have been such a great success. So many great minds working together to make this happen. So just thank you to the entire team, and thank you to all the participants for your time today. We greatly appreciate you. I'll just close this out with a quote from Dr. Vanessa LaPointe. "I have yet to meet a child who enjoys misbehaving. Rather, I see a child who is working to communicate a message about an unmet need in increasingly desperate and extreme ways." Have a great evening, everyone.